I think that American education is in the midst of what I would consider a perfect storm.
In fact, our own education secretary called the results, the words that Diane used, a wake-up call. Our president is calling for a modern-day Sputnik moment.
The American education system badly needs improvement.
It's not where it needs to be. There's too many places that aren't doing well.
Throughout America, there are people calling for radical educational reform. Signs indicate that our schools are not providing American students with a sufficient education to compete in the highly technical job market of today and tomorrow. Considering recent trends in global test scores, it's clear that American schools do not display the prowess that they once did. Math, reading, and science proficiency scores for American students no longer rate among the highest in the world. The low scores are most frequent in American high school students.
Hey guys, I'm in class right now. And I'm bored.
When I think of high school, I just remember it being really boring. Nobody wants to sit in a classroom all day and just listen to teachers talk about things that you really aren't interested in. I really feel like I didn't really learn much in high school, and I could have learned a lot more.
If students aren't learning to their full potential in the 19th century system schools are using today, maybe alternative approaches that leverage more modern technologies and cultural trends should be considered. The world has changed significantly over the last century. Today's cell phones, the internet, and social media have become major components of students' lives. With these substantial changes, it seems quite likely that people's minds and the way they learn things have also changed. But if modern students aren't learning from techniques used in schools today, where are they learning?
So consider this really interesting statistic. It was recently published by a researcher at Carnegie Mellon University. The average young person today in a country with a strong gamer culture will have spent 10,000 hours playing online games by the age of 21. For children in the United States, 10,080 hours is the exact amount of time you will spend in school from 5th grade to high school graduation if you have perfect attendance.
Those students playing 10,000 hours of games by the age of 21 are voluntarily devoting the time equivalent of 7 years of classes to video games. That is an enormous amount of time to volunteer towards anything. Video games clearly have a somewhat addictive nature, which has the power to instill great motivation in the gamer. That motivation seems to be just what is missing for today's bored American students.
I was talking to my son about the debate and saying, how did you learn to read? And he said, well, I was never interested in all those Postman Pat and Spot books that you gave me. But when I got that Super Nintendo Donkey Kong game, I had to learn to read because I couldn't play the game if I didn't. And I've never seen a 5-year-old learn to read so fast.
Video games create motivation in kids. If a 5-year-old could be motivated to read by a Donkey Kong game focused on collecting bananas and jumping on opponents, just imagine the possibilities of games designed to focus more on education. Children find it difficult and pointless to memorize the periodic table of elements, a fundamental building block for proficiency in chemistry. At the same time, however, countless children memorize the names, characteristics, and abilities of hundreds of Pokemon. Is it so hard to imagine a game that leveraged that motivation to teach students the periodic table? Looking at a more current example, the recent role-playing open-world hit Elder Scrolls V has taught its record-setting number of players the geography of its fictional land called Skyrim, in which the game is set. Players have learned about the frozen tundras of Winterfell, the coastal beauty of Solitude, and the mountainous terror of Markarth. Why couldn't those players be taught the geography of America in a similar fashion? Or that of the world? Using software for education purposes is certainly not a new idea. As early as World War II, computer programs were created to simulate flight to help train pilots. Today, there are various types of flight simulators, from small online flash games frequented by children to multi-million-dollar movable simulators like that in the engineering building at Syracuse University. Such high-tech simulators are so advanced that logging hours practicing in them will count towards requirements for getting a pilot's license. Clearly, this advanced video game is extremely useful for education. Recently, there have been countless other types of educational software developed as well. Many publishing companies have started to produce electronic versions of their textbooks or offer additional resources through digital content. Many encyclopedias, dictionaries, and other references have also been converted into digital formats. There have even been operating systems like Linux produced specifically with education in mind. All of these innovations will be very helpful in meeting the media demands of a very digital generation of students, but they do not focus on adding the most useful aspect from gaming to education. Without the gaming aspect, kids will remain unmotivated. So where do we go from here? Gaming in education is a growing movement in America today, with numerous blog discussions, Facebook groups, and YouTube videos promoting the incorporation of educational video games in schools. People are desperately trying to find an answer to the many problems that the American education system is facing. The answer to many of those problems is educational gaming. In a world and society where we have shaped so many aspects of our lives with technology, why can't we do the same with education? Resources need to be spent on the development of new games, which provide students with the modern entertainment they crave, but also teach them the lessons and skills they need to be successful in the future. Parents would be happy as their children succeeded and enjoyed school more, and students who have considered the idea praise its potential as well.
With these new games, learning becomes fun, even addicting. And addiction to education is not a bad thing.
There is great potential in the developing movement for educational gaming. If games are utilized in the future and are effectively designed and implemented, American students won't be able to help but learn more than they ever have before.